Questions? Yes, of course. Doug, what do you got?
For years, I have been told that P&M does not have a process for withdrawal from your bank account payments. Now they do because of this new website?
Yep, you can sign up for that. Wasn't available till now. Now it's set up where you can do an ACH, automatic cash, whatever ACH stands for. Automated cash. Clearing, thank you very much. Ask the treasurer. And so you can sign up for that. And so that is something you can do right out of your checking account. We don't yet have the ability to do credit cards on an automated basis because the credit cards charge a swipe fee of like 3%. We are not allowed to pay the swipe fee for some customers, and then customers who pay by cash don't get that swipe fee savings. And so we have to add the cost onto the bill. So you want to pay your card with a credit card, it's $100 to $103.75. People tend not to like that. And so we haven't been able to do Visa swipes. Yes, sir.
Do you do PayPal and Apple Pay and
Yeah,
Bitcoin?
No Bitcoin. I don't know about everybody else. I know for sure we don't do Bitcoin. We're a little scared of Bitcoin. I don't know if they have PayPal set up. I doubt it. We aren't cutting edge like PayPal's only been around for 10 years. We're waiting to make sure it's really going to stay.
There's usually a fee there too.
Yeah, if there's a fee, we just, because we're a regulated utility, we have to make sure we treat all the customers the same. And if we pay the swipe fee, you know, who pays it? The shareholders.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to pay your bill to us anyway.
Right.
So there's no incentive for us to offer that feature. Other questions?
Did you compare, or whatever you're doing with other utilities? In other words, I have no sense of what the
Yeah.
best utility does and what's the worst utility.
Yeah, we actually spent a whole lot of time in the design process, figuring out there's a couple of companies. Georgia Power and Light has got, when they have their rankings, Georgia Power and Light has got a very popular website. People like it quite a bit. We studied what their stuff did, and we tried to take what works best and avoid what didn't work best. We did a couple things that nobody else did. None of our other commercial websites in the same kind of space did the bug hunting concept. We've actually gotten a lot of requests. I did an article on this that's in Better Software's website, Sticky Minds, in September. This has been used at a couple of presentations where our marketing people go interact with other electric utility marketing peoples, and they share stories. One of the other things that a lot of the utility companies do is they make an app that goes on your phone for doing the same kind of stuff. We had limited budget, limited resources, so we built essentially the website that detects are you coming on there with a mobile device or with a desktop, and it shows you two different screens. Meant we didn't have to do an app, means we don't have to pay Apple for any kind of fee to put it on their site. We don't have to worry about updates and you being 2.1 and you being on 2.2, you being on 2.3. Come to the website, it's all there. Plus, we were able to make the website super fast. It runs like 10 times faster on a mobile device than on a desktop because it's really light. And that's something that a lot of the other utility companies hadn't done. And they're really impressed by how well that worked for us. Other questions?
So how do you manage updates going forward?
We have, happily I'm not involved with that, but we do updates on Tuesday nights typically, and we have a development area, and we cut it over Tuesday nights after 11 o'clock is when usage drops way down, and we cut it over first on one server, verify it works okay, then we copy it over onto the other server. It works pretty much like any other public-facing environment. We test it very heavily in our QA environment first. We just added, in the last month, literally, we added the Spanish pages. We added about 7 to 9 pages of Spanish pages in December. I can tell you a secret. In December, we're adding new features on the ability to do the move in and move out and transfer functionality. That's when we looked to see where do our calls come into customer service. Is people wanting to move in, move out, or move from one location to another. And we've tried to make that as easy as possible by automating it out onto the website. So that way you can schedule it and say, yeah, it's gonna be happening in, you know, I'm moving in 2 weeks, here's gonna happen July 3rd, AM or PM, boom, it's done.
You report streetlight outages there too?
What, I'm sorry?
Report streetlight outages that way?
There's a place to report an outage. I'm not sure if it does BC Lamps or not, which is the software that does streetlight outages. We pretty much supply the electricity, and the streetlights themselves, I think, are maintained by the city. I'm not sure if it's P&M people.
It used
Place
to be,
those.
it was P&M.
That could be. I mean, it's not a piece of the puzzle I deal with. I know the software involved, I know what it's called, and I know updates happen to it, but I don't know if we use it for more than just charging the bill.
Yeah, because, I gathered at least there was something having to do with, you know, part of the deal for being the utility
Well,
for the area.
we give the cities a very good deal because they're tied directly into our transmission lines. We don't necessarily have meters on every street light, and we have some way of estimating how many street lights there are and how we charge them. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, it just seemed like one time when I got called 311, they said, oh, you can report it through us, you can report it to P&M directly.
And I'm not sure, if the outage may be caused by the bulb burned out, it may be a blown circuit, it could be any one of a number of different things causes that light to
Last
be
time
out.
somebody ran it over, but
Well, it's like I did the Duke City thing yesterday, I'm walking by through the park, and there's wires just kind of tied into the trees. The 2-wire hot and return, it's like,
electric trees.
what are we doing with that? That's not us. Because it just looked rinky-dink.
Getting ready for Christmas.
Well, they may have been getting ready for Christmas, but realistically, I mean, we've got a very strong push. We had a fatality a couple of years ago during a training exercise, actually. And so we've made a really strong push to avoid safety risks. And that's, obviously, we're all benefited if everybody comes home safe. And so safety is really one of the things we're watching a lot more as time goes by. We're concerned with safety, but you tend to have, in the utility business, the guys climbing the poles think they're Superman. They're superheroes. They see the pole is out, they see a problem, they think if I just go up there and take care of it quickly, I can get the power back on for a bunch of people. Our whole philosophy has been now, it's like, step back, think about the work you're doing, plan, is there safety, is there something going on, is the truck, because they put down those little feet, is it on stable ground? Typically, especially this year, we've had a lot of floods. The foot might not be on stable ground. And you don't really want to be up in the bucket and have the truck tip over. That's just, that makes a bad problem significantly worse. And so we've done a lot of that kind of thing to reduce, opportunities to, not be stupid, but to have avoidable accidents happen.
How do you replace those transformers, that are on the pole, round ones?
Yep.
If they're in, a older housing area, there's no way to get to them.
They've got extension lifts. I mean, they've got the truck, put down the big feet, and it can, shoot its crane in pretty far from the street to get to it.
Okay.
Somehow or another, they do it. I mean, I know when we had the big windstorm a couple of years ago, it knocked out poles. It's like, I don't know how they get to them. Because they've got to pull the old pole out. They've got to come in with a digger, a borehole, to bore the hole to drop the new pole in, and there's like no room for anything.
But they did it.
Somehow or another, the crews do it. Ones that are more interesting is the ones that are like, if you drive up to Santa Fe or Taos, and it's like there's these poles marching across the desert, and it's like nobody's been to that pole in years. How would they ever get a truck to it? But reality is we have environmental guys that go out and look at our main transmission lines every year, every other year, just to inspect them, make sure there's not a problem. They have to do it during bird season, so they have to make sure they aren't doing it when eagles are nesting, because the eagles like to nest in the transformer poles. And we want to make sure we don't hurt the eagles and all that, but we also have to go out there and look at it, and if we detect there's some work needs to be done, we have a whole group that actually looks to make sure there's no Indian relics where the pole is, because maybe at the time the pole was set, could be, they're doing work in downtown Albuquerque. They found one of the insulators from 1899. So there's some wires in the state that are 100 years old. And it's like, well, we got to be, the rules that were in place 1899 aren't the rules that are in place today. And so we've got all kinds of stuff like that. If a transformer leaks oil, because transformers, those big round boxes we were talking about, they're full of oil. And it's not a particularly healthy oil. If it leaks, we've got to do remediation to protect it.
Does your system generate work orders? Does it interface with?
Yeah, our system, if you report an outage from pnm.com, you report an outage, it writes a record into our customer-facing application is called Banner. Banner connects up to the back-end system through another tool called Thor. Thor pots it up to the network operators, and they sit there and say, is it one person? If it's one person, 90% of their time in our experience, it's operator error. You've tripped the circuit breaker at your house, there's not necessarily an outage. But if your neighbor reports an outage nearby, boom, okay, it's something out there, we gotta dispatch a crew. And we kind of look for that kind of stuff to define. If we have to dispatch a crew, it actually happens through another application that does our crew management.
Yeah, but it's all connected.
It's all connected. We try and make it as good connected as it can be. Is it flawless? No. But it gets a whole lot better, and there's a whole tie to the vegetation management tool where a tree comes along and knocks over a pole, or the meter guy's out there reading your meters, and he says, boy, I don't like the way those trees look. He's got a process on his handheld now where he can sit there and say, at meter number 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a tree hazard. And that kicks out a ticket to tell the vegetation management people to come over and take a look and see what do we need to do. Is this something we can go to the homeowner and say, hey, Mr. Homeowner, you got to take care of that tree, or if it's up too close to the line, we'll come in and trim your tree for you. You may not particularly like the way we trim your tree, but we really want to make sure that tree doesn't knock out your power or make an unsafe situation worse. But they work. I mean, I've not had any issues because I'm all underground where I am, but they work really hard to make the customers happy, even when they're doing something they may not like topping your tree.
That reader reporting must cut back on a tremendous amount of effort.
Mm-hmm. What, you mean the smart meters?
Well, is that what you call it? The meter reader who is sending the message?
Well, the meter reader walks around with his handheld, basically a little tablet, and he reads all the meters, and if he detects something, he can put a note in the system.
But in the old system, I'm sure he had to go back to his truck, sit there, call on the phone.
We'd write a paper record,
Yeah.
and 50% of the time the paper records get lost. And, it was terribly inefficient.
Yeah.
And we had a whole lot more meter readers because the meter read process was a lot slower. Now the meter reads, because we still have manual readers in most places. Gas companies gone all over to digital read. They can just stop the truck at your yard and point the gun and they get their reading. But they don't have the same kind of business needs we do.
I think water does too, have those. like,
I don't know, I don't think Rio Rancho does.
Maybe not Rio Rancho, but I mean, they're all going that way, so.
Well, yeah, because
P&M
it's,
is
I
going-
mean, what we have in Texas is we have the smart meters,
Mhm.
where you read your meter, 120 times a day or whatever it is. We read your meter all day long, and we can give you variable incentives to make you run your air conditioning not at prime time. Run your dishwasher at 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when power's cheap. We'd rather you use power when it's cheap, because it means we don't have to build another plant somewhere that sits idle except for peak hours. Those things we work really hard to try and find ways to, if I look at our peak system, we have that big peak in July, like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If we could find a way to chop off that peak and shift it 2 hours, we saved you, the customers, $100 million. Because we don't need that money to build another plant. We don't have to buy expensive power from Palo Verde Nuclear or from Southern Cal or somewhere else. You want us to find a way to cut those peaks out.
You actually get a tower from Southern California.
We are on the Western network. We buy power from as far away as Canada. We're on a shared grid, the Western, WECC, Western Electric Continental Connection or something like that. And we buy and sell power all the way across the western states. So we'll buy power from the hydropower up in Washington State if the price is right.
Or they'll buy from you.
They'll buy from us. If we can make our power at San Juan where coal is cheap, if we can make extra power that they want, they'll buy it from us. We make a penny a kilowatt hour, whatever it is, and that's money that goes directly to the ratepayers. Saves us cost. And we spend an awful lot of time. There's a whole bunch of guys that spend their time trying to figure out how to shave those nickels. Any more questions? I know we've really gone a wide gamut of conversation.
What's your next crowdsourcing effort?
I don't have one at this time. My projects, I'm kind of doing a couple of different things right now. I'm very focused on what's called root cause analysis, which is when something goes wrong, why did it go wrong, and what can we do to prevent it from going wrong again? I'm doing that for all of the business support systems, like the applications I spoke of tonight, trying to find out what can we do to make them hardened and better able to respond to things. I'm leading a project to upgrade our version of Quality Center because we were seriously out of date. And I got us a really good deal if we bought the software last month, and so we did, and we saved close to $100,000 on capital expense. I do performance testing, so I don't have any crowdsourced testing needs because it's really a specialized tool. You need a lot of people who want to test from home. Like if we roll out a new version of our maintenance ordering system, people aren't using that from home. They're using it from the company desktop. I order those company desktops, or not me, but somebody in my group does. Says everybody has the same desktop. You will all run Internet Explorer version 10. I don't have to worry about anybody running an Apple because it's not allowed. If I find an Apple on the network, I yank it out. And so the opportunity for crowdsource just isn't there. But this is a cool tool if you've got public-facing business you can use, and it's really cost-effective, and people love it.
Thank you.
Sure. That's my story.